Haste is easily one of the most satisfying indie games I've played all year. But what is it exactly about this game that makes it so much fun to play? So I first caught wind of it back when some early test footage popped up on my Instagram or TikTok feed. The clips were pretty basic, but something about them immediately grabbed my attention. Even in that early stage, the game had this sense of momentum and style that really stuck with me. It looked right up my alley, and I could tell that the devs were cooking up something pretty special here. So I followed the dev account and quietly kept tabs in the background, periodically checking in. I just wanted to see where this game would go. Fast forward to February 2025 when the Steam Next Fest demo dropped. I'd been waiting a while for that moment. I couldn't wait to get my hands on the game, and I was just so hyped to finally try it. And man, let me tell you, I ate that demo up. It was already way more polished than I expected, and it felt incredible to play. Right out of the gate, it reminded me of classic mobile runner games like Temple Run or Subway Surfers. Instead of being stuck in rigid lanes, you're blazing through 3D environments. It's mostly linear depending on the stage you're playing, but it's open enough to make you feel like you're choosing your own path along the way. Almost like a blend between a runner type game and a high-speed racing game like F-Zero or Wipeout. I spent hours replaying that demo, going through the first shard over and over again, trying to chase that S rank with no damage. It was a glimpse of something special, and I couldn't wait for more. Then April 1st hit, the official release date. So what surprised me most about the experience? Well, what really caught me off guard about the full release was just how tight and refined the core gameplay loop felt. So what makes the game tick? At its core, Haste is all about momentum. You play as Zoe, an interdimensional mail courier, sprinting through levels that are literally collapsing behind you. I won't go too deep into Zoe or the larger story in this video. Just know that the story is there, and while it's not the deepest or most emotionally complex narrative I have played through, it still kept me curious. I found myself reading every bit of dialogue just to kind of get a sense of where it would all lead. So I would say I wasn't bored, but I wasn't completely engaged either. But back to the gameplay, because that's what we're really here to talk about. You spend just as much time in the air as you do on the ground, and there's no jump button. Movement relies entirely on terrain and speed. Hit a downward slope at just the right angle, and you'll get a burst of momentum and a buttery smooth landing. If you botch it, you'll lose your flow. If you lose too much, the world just begins to swallow you whole. The game constantly throws decisions your way. Stick to the main path, or should you veer off for a riskier route and try to snag more sparks, the game's currency used for upgrades and items? Thanks to procedural generation, no two runs are exactly alike, and for the most part, there's always a fair path forward. And once the mechanics click, when to launch, how to land correctly, which line to take, your hands stop thinking. You just kind of react, and it becomes sort of a meditative experience. That flow reminded me a lot of playing Tony Hawk's Pro Skater back in the day. Once you understood the mechanics of that game, how to chain tricks together, when to time your landing, it stopped being about pressing buttons and started being about rhythm, about instinct. Haste gives me that same flow state feeling, even though the controls are far simpler. It encourages you to turn off your brain and just lock in. So speaking on controls, the feeling of the game really changed depending on how I was playing it, what input I was using. So for mouse and keyboard, it felt really sharp, great for quick reactions and snappy camera movements, but I struggled a bit with the timing. It was fine, but definitely less intuitive compared to playing on a controller, which kind of caught me off guard because I usually play with mouse and keyboard. With a controller, the right trigger for descending mid-air felt way more natural to me. Way better than trying to feather the spacebar at high speeds to get that perfect landing. The analog sticks on the controller also made small mid-air corrections feel smooth and reactive. I also really enjoy playing Haste on my ROG Ally X. Once I dialed in the settings, the game ran super well, and the 120Hz screen on the Ally made everything feel silky. Visually, Haste is so clean and readable that even on a 7-inch display, I never really lost track of the action. So if you're curious about playing it on handheld, I definitely recommend it. I've also heard it runs great on Steam Deck. So let's get back to the gameplay. Haste definitely isn't perfect. So let's talk a little bit about its simplicity versus its imperfections. On rare occasions, the procedural generation can lead to awkward landings or slightly unfair feeling situations. I've also seen some criticism that the roguelike elements are too shallow, meaning throughout the game, you kind of get a handful of buffs and modifiers and bosses that are recycled through the runs. Some people say the roguelike parts feel tacked on, and as a whole package, it might leave some players wanting more than it really has to offer. But for me, that simplicity works in the game's favor. It doesn't bog things down with layers of mechanics or complex builds to craft. It keeps your attention on the moment-to-moment gameplay loop, which is the strongest feature of the game. The variations in its stages are just enough to keep each run fresh without pulling you out of that flow. Speaking of variations, let's talk about the aesthetic and the soundtrack. Visually, Haste nails a super clean aesthetic. Somewhere between handcrafted and futuristic. Vibrant colors, comic book style shading, and little touches like screen distortion and motion blur when you move fast all come together to make the game feel alive and give you a true sense of speed. And the character art, it goes hard. These hand-drawn portraits and the dialogue scenes pop off the screen. They're bright, stylish, and memorable. Then there's the soundtrack. It's dynamic, varied, and heart-pumping. And honestly, I think it fits the game perfectly. Even reused themes had fresh remixes that caught me off guard in the best way. Just like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, the music serves to help you enter that flow state while you bob your head and enjoy. Karl, Flodin, and Erik, Lyding, hopefully I'm saying your names correctly, you guys crushed it with the soundtrack. So in closing, what makes Haste feel so good to play? Well, it doesn't just play well, it feels great. Every element of the game reinforces that focused, fast, and fluid loop. It doesn't ask for hours of your life to learn it just to start enjoying it. It's confident in what it is. No fluff, no filler, just speed, style, rhythm, and that feeling of being totally locked in. You can just pick it up and play it and have a great time. If you're the kind of player chasing that perfect run in a roguelike or in a racing game, that moment where everything clicks and you're just flying through purely on instinct, Haste delivers that in a big way. Have you checked this game out yet? If not, I highly recommend you grab the demo and give it a spin. And let me know what you think. This has been Tom, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.